MTDCNC have travelled to Leader CNC today to review the DMC DL24TTGB. Now, Paul, the first thing that strikes me about this machine is the twin spindles.
Yeah, twin spindle, twin turret machine, but of course it's quite different to some of the machines we look at sometimes where you've got the spindles that are sort of facing each other, as opposed to what you see here as the spindles facing the front or facing the operator. You've essentially got two machines, one to the left and one to the right, with a turret that is able to perform its operation on the particular spindle that it's next to. Now, there's an interesting story here, because this is actually a machine that was part of a cancelled order, and the engineering and the value in the turnkey that Leader CNC did equated to, with this whole solution, around about £250,000. Because the order was cancelled, a deposit was paid, it now means that they can be a little bit more flexible in terms of delivering and installing this on the commercial front.
And we'll mention the price at the end of this video, so stay tuned and keep watching the video. So we've got twin spindle, twin turret, Paul. What are the capacities, the components that you can hold size-wise?
Well, I think when you look at the part that you've got in your hand there's a good example of the type of part that you could be machining on a machine like this, and if not a slightly bit bigger than that. But if you're looking at just turning ODs, turning IDs, boring, all of those essentially turning operations done quickly and precisely, this is a machine for you. And the fact you've got this gantry on the top means that you can be either doing one of two things. You can either have the same operation on both sides, completely balanced, and you can be taking the part out and putting it into a stacker system here, or the other side, or you could have op 10 and op 20, so you can finish a component essentially in one hit. There's the two options for you.
So potentially, Paul, a component, you could be putting in a component like this as raw billet, and it will come out complete. So you've got a stacker one end where the raw billets will be presented to the robot, and then at the other end, the finished parts will be piled up.
Absolutely.
Built-in automation.
Built-in automation. But when you talk about built-in automation, what we try and think of is what competes with this? What are the other options open to you as an engineer in the marketplace? And one would be here, you'd need two spindles. So you need two axis lathes, okay? So that takes up a lot more floor space than what you've got here. The second thing is, if you wanted to automate them, you would then need two robots or two cobots. So again, there's more investment, there's more inventory, and all of that together collectively, would you say it is as manageable as what you've got here in one cell? And that's the way I would try and look at this. I would try and think to myself, you know, even if, and when we talk about what this is going to cost the engineer, even if you've got no value out of this side, but you've got all the value out of this side with a gantry, that's the same as having a single spindle lathe with a robot, and it'll probably cost you half potentially of what a solution might from somebody else. And then you've still got this one that you can use for free. So that's just one way of looking at it.
So breaking that down, Paul, effectively it's for very high volume work, simple turn parts, but you'll get maximum productivity with the two spindles, two turrets, and built-in automation.
I think, yeah, you say high volumes, and high volumes is important. The higher the volume, the better. But I wouldn't pigeonhole it just into that. I would say, you know, medium to high volumes. There's no danger in having to set up billets and change a program for another part, because you can do that potentially while the machine's still operating on another batch of components. So the machine's not necessarily down when you're changing from part to part. So high volumes, yes, but medium to high volumes probably as well.
So it lends itself best of both worlds.
Best of both worlds, but the less complex the part, because there is no milling on this machine, so milling will have to be done elsewhere. So the example that you've got there of a turn part is specifically what you would identify with a machine like this. There's
a lot of engineers out there, Paul, just making turn parts such as this, similar to this, and this machine really would lend itself to this kind of component.
Yeah, and you've got to also take DMC into account here. You've got to look at this brand. It's a Korean-built machine with many, many years of history of building machines. In fact, the guys here at Leader CNC told us today that having this in their portfolio has been really good for them over recent years, because they're very competitively priced. Their experience in building machine tools that compete with some of the best in the world is clear to see, and this machine here is no different. So you're talking about a machine that will be able to perform precise machining operations day in, day out, which you would expect from automation like this.
And it looks looks extremely fast. Just to round this up, Paul, what about the swarf evacuation? Obviously you're going to be cutting potentially 2 parts at the same time, simultaneously. You need to get rid of that swarf.
We do, but it all goes out the back. So it all goes out the back in one combined conveyor. You can see the slants on the side of either side of what we'd class as each machining cell, which is forcing the swarf into the base and out the back. What that does again is it means that all of this area here is clear for your gantry and your stacking system. You've not then got a swarf conveyor that's coming out even further on either side. So what you're doing is you're keeping it in a pretty tidy envelope. I would probably say that this machine in its entirety with 2 spindles and 2 turrets is a lot more compact than potentially maybe even a single spindle machine, which is some accolade.
The envelope really stands out, Paul. Control, the FANUC series OITD control. It looks very simple to use. The footprint, as we mentioned, is extremely small for all the capabilities. Paul, how much?
So talk to Leader CNC, but you're talking about just over £100,000 for this machine, which, like we said at the start of this, compared to other solutions that may be available on the market, this could be a bit of a steal.